Howdy. I flipped my phone to where I can do a video without blinding myself. I just hit that little button that rotates the screen or whatever. So that way I can record me through the front instead of through the back side of the phone. But anywho, I was just making this little video. I was just thinking, um, you know, just about life and different stuff and you know, my dad, he passed away, you know, esophageal cancer stage 4, 6 years ago. And if any of you don't know who I am, let me just reiterate or let you know or whatever. My name's Jake, Jacob K, or Jake, Krawetsky. I have a middle name too, I just don't feel like saying it. If you can read lips, then you know what my middle name is now. I'm about a little older than 32 and a half right now. Um, I'm single. I don't have any kids. I don't have, girlfriend or wife or fiance. Obviously, if I've never been married, I've never been divorced, kind of almost goes without saying, I guess, somewhat, but you never know. People would still ask. But, anywho, yeah, I write poetry. I probably got like 100 poems. I've been writing poetry since I was like 13. You're talking a fifth of a century, 20 years, 2 decades later. I average about a poem every other month or so. So about five a year or something for 20 years, hence the 100 poems. Um, Obviously I graduated cum laude with honors 3.532 from high school, Erie Mason, the Eagles, Mason Consolidated. I went to Owens Community College for a couple semesters, 7 years ago, five and six, I believe. Oh, yeah, 6 and 7. Yeah, 6 and 7. It was spring of 2013 and spring of 2014, from like January to May. But anywho, the first semester I went to college, I got a 4.0 for my GPA. So I figured, that was the least I could do. That was my goal, was to get a 4.0 first semester, in college, because I had, not been in school, or from high school to go into college was like, what, 7 years ago, I would have been 25 and a half, so 25, and I left high school when I was like 19, so it was like 6 years later. I should have been the class of 2006. I was the class of 2007 when I graduated. And like I say, I went to college in 2013, so yeah, 6, 7 years. So I was like, well, it's been a little over half a decade, like, 2/3 or 3/5 of a decade. I might as well, show them what I'm working with. I didn't take the ACT or the SAT. I took the prep courses for that, and like Deer, Drop Everything and Read, was one of the classes. I took the MEP tests, Michigan Educational Assessment Program, and you've got to get like level 2 is like above the standard, meets the standard. 1 is like above the standard. 3 is below. 4 is like way below, or something like that. They wanted you to get like 1s and 2s, and like most of the stuff I took, I got the 1s and 2s right off the bat. There was like 1 or 2 I had to like retake because I took them as like early, like as a freshman. I didn't technically have to take them until I was like a sophomore or something. Like I tried to get ahead of the game, and I just wasn't wasn't ready, wasn't prepared, didn't have the education for some of that stuff just yet. Kind of jumped ahead of the curve a little, and so I ended up finally, by the time I was like a junior, I don't think I took them as a senior. I took like two other ones twice or three times for one. Like the second time I passed the math one, I went from like getting a three or two because you couldn't take them. Like if you got the two, you couldn't try again to try to get a one. Like that was it, you know. So for me, what was cool is like science and whatever. Like the writing one, like I got a level one. I was like, yeah, the reading comprehension and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I got this in the bag, you know. Like they like, you know, you read a story and then you have to like recite what it's about or something, or you know. So it's like reading a retention or attention to detail or something, you know, how well you like absorb what your the knowledge of what you're like reading about of whatever material they give you. How good is your memory, like, you know, comprehension, like how well can you remember what they just talked about or whatever. So it's like, yeah, I'm good there. Like, but anywho, yeah, this video is already 6 minutes in, and I barely told you anything about me. So, like I say, you know, I write poetry, I fish, hunt. Haven't hunted. I went on a hunting trip with my brother and my dad. You know, like when I was 16, like half my life ago, and we both like my dad and I shot at a doe, and of course he like let me have the doe or whatever because we weren't really sure, supposedly technically, like who shot the deer, you know, because there was like more than one bullet hole or something. So he just gave me the benefit of the doubt or something, since it was like my first trip and he didn't want me to like go without catching anything. And I had a thing where I could get either or, like a buck or a doe. So I didn't really see any bucks that time. My brother, I guess, did, but like he ended up shooting this like yearling deer or whatever. It was like a year or two old or something, and I think it was a little buck or something. It had like little two little like nubs or something or whatever. And yeah, so but the meat was, you know, good and tender because when they're like yearlings and stuff and young like that, then the like meat is like super good and, you know, everything. So it's not, it doesn't have that like gamey taste if like the animal's like more mature and like older or whatever. So but anywho, so yeah, so next time I go hunting, I'll probably just hopefully try to go again, you know, with my brother, you know, because it's tough, you know, not being able to like the stuff that I used to do with like my dad, and you know, then do it all by myself. Just feels weird, you know, different. You know, I've been like river fishing on the Maumee River with like my Uncle John and stuff with like waders and catch fish there. Like I caught this really huge grass carp. One of the first times I went with him, it was like the biggest fish like I ever caught in my life. It was like massively big. It was probably like 20 or 25. I don't know exactly the weight of it, but I mean it was probably, I mean it barely fit in the net, and it was a pretty big net. I mean that fish had to have been good 4 foot long, at least somewhere between 3 and 5 feet long. I mean, it was big. It was you know, it was a really big fish. So, and we found out it was called a grass carp. So I was like, cool, you know. It hit like a freight train, man. Like I barely. He's like, you sure you're not caught up on a rock? I'm like, I'm pretty. Like that thing's moving and it's like floating down the river or whatever. And so I'm like, yeah, that's not normal. Like, you know, like the current, you know, and it's like going like I had to pull it like upstream, like against the current or whatever. It was crazy. So, and of course, everybody was like, holy crap, like, that's amazing, that's awesome, you know, the people who were there fishing with us and stuff that day. You know, we would go like in the morning, you know, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and then fish for a couple good hours till like 9, 10, whatever, noon or something. And yeah, so, but anywho, you know, I've made a lot of poetry, just about my family and about my dad and about like my future, like with my future person, like I made like one of the first poems I ever made was called like The Dream Girl. And then I made one called like Why Don't You Love Me? Or I yeah, Why Don't You Love Me? And then I Wish I Never Knew You were like the first three poems I ever wrote that were like really good. And I wrote them in like 13 and to like 16 range, like wrote one and like the other, and then still in high school, whatever. And then I just kept going, those were some of my better ones, like each different year for those few years. And then I just went on a spree, just like a splurge or whatnot, and just kind of just kept on like rapid fire, just kept creating. It just became a passion or a hobby or whatever. So yeah, so that's pretty much that. As far as why I really, made this video, I was kind of thinking to myself, it's a shame that, I have like a lot of impractical knowledge, like knowledge that can't be applied in the real world, I'm really like, what stinks is that like the stuff that I'm like really like passionate about or really not adamant, but you know motivates me, inspires me. Most people, those things they just don't really necessarily care about as much. Like they're not as like into it as I am. Like football, with like offensive stuff and playbooks and players and stats and whatnot and teams and all that kind of stuff. Or like I can recite Disney lines and all this kind of stuff, like the whole movie with like all the characters lines. Like I could just be like da 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 and whoever's turn it is and just like go. Like if I was at the thing when they first like were creating the movie, and like I was like the director or something, and I have to know everybody's lines so I know like who's supposed to go when, and give them like the green light or whatever, in action, and then all that. So yeah, I probably could be like a director for like Disney, because uh, not so much the new stuff, but like a lot of the classic old stuff that came out around the time like I was born. Obviously, the real classic ones are way before my time, because Disney's been making movies since like what, the 20s or some, really for sure for like the 50s on up, and so that's, you're talking 70 to 100 something years, like between 50 and 100 years. I mean, that's a long, 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 long time since like the Great Depression and stuff, and maybe even before then. As far as like the cartoons, they probably did before that, but Anyway, enough trivia history. Like I said, it just like I'm adamant about certain things. Like I say, I think I said that earlier, but that's not really the right A word that I'm like looking for. But like ambitious, I don't know. But the bottom line, the point is that like I say, the stuff that inspires me and like kind of makes me tick and really gets me like excited, like real happy, or ecstatic, and like I just can't contain like my joy or whatever, um about certain subjects or topics or things that interest me. Like I say, most people, they're just not as into it as I am, and it's a shame. It's like it makes me look like silly, like foolish, like almost like a kid, even though I'm like a third of a century old, just about. it kind of, it's deflating, and it's their loss, like people that don't try to get to know me and like know the real me. Like I'm always trying to put a front up. I'm always trying to be like, oh yeah, let's be in entertainer mode and a people pleaser and do things that make other people happy. And it's like part of my, and then it puts my happiness on the back burner. You know what I mean? Because I'm putting everybody else's needs before my own needs. But in the same token, what also like helps me or whatever with people is that what makes me happy is that, seeing something that I can do that like no one else can, and there's not a whole lot of things in life that I can do that others can't do, they're in the things that I can do that others can't. They probably could if they really like tried, or but most people aren't that like into, you know what I mean, they're not as concerned about it, like there's no real point to it, I guess. They don't see the like logic behind it, like what good does it do somebody to um like I say with the Disney thing, unless you're going to be a voiceover for Disney, that knowledge and that like you know whatever you taught yourself or whatever and learned, you know what I mean, like it doesn't really do you much good, as far as that. I mean, and you, it's not like you can make a career. I mean, you can, but like you, it's hard to explain, like just like with like sports, unless you're going to become a sports analyst or a sportscaster, sports writer, sports journalist, or a sports announcer, or like ESPN, like or something like that, and uh, be somebody of that caliber or a coach or something. Um, you know, knowing all those teams and like watching all those games and re-watching film of games from 5, 10, 20 plus whatever years ago for like bowl games or regular season games, or just knowing like certain history about certain teams and like who, what their win loss and who they played, and all that kind of stuff. Most people are like not impressed. Like it's only impressive if you're like with the right crowd or the right clique or the right group. Like you've got to have like-minded individuals that share your same goals, passions, hobbies, and interests and stuff. So it'd be like for like a person that's like a mechanic, right? For example, obviously, they're really passionate about like cars and stuff, and so you know, like car collectors and car enthusiasts and all that kind of stuff. They have conventions, just like Comic Con for like people that are like real nerdy or whatever, or real geeky, and they're really into like sci-fi and anime and like, um, you know, comic books and all that kind of stuff. Um, they, meet with people that have that same passion and like energy and same like feeling towards the subject as you do, like I say, like people that are like Star Wars or Star Trek fans and all that kind of stuff. um you know they have things for that specifically geared towards those people, like they call people that are mechanically inclined, gearheads, where they just all the time, like that's the biggest part of like their life and what they think about and what they, excuse me, focus on is cars, cars, cars. They like, just like some people are passionate about like dinosaurs or in archaeology and fossils and whatever. And it's like, you know to a point, like after a minute, most people don't, average person's not going to know like the difference between like, I don't know, the basic dinosaurs like Triceratops and Stegosaurus and, all that kind of stuff. Or even the ones like that shark one, like Megalodon or something, or Tyrannosaurus or Velociraptor, or, unless they just know from some books they've read or some kind of TV or movie or something, they're not gonna have any clue unless they go to like the museum and they, see the stuff and, actually take an interest in like it's hard for them to engage with you, and hold a conversation for a lengthy period of time, um, in regards to a topic that they barely know anything, if not nothing about. They're gonna lose interest quick, and they're gonna kind of like get frustrated with you because you just go like on and on nonstop. You know, don't even take a breath or let them interject, and it's not like you're trying to be selfish or like trying to be conceited or arrogant, but you're just passionate, like that's something that you have a lot of pride about and you really love it. And not everybody's gonna love the things that you love the most. They're not gonna love those things the same way you do, or as much as you do. And you have to know that, and you have to have a certain understanding, a level of like appreciation about that, and a certain level of like, oh, maybe I should talk about something else, that maybe we have similar, more common interest than that. Because obviously, if you try too long with a topic and the person doesn't really say much, a little quick, short, yes, no, whatever kind of thing, they are, gonna eventually pull out their phone and just start texting or something, or pretend like they got a call that, whatever, just to get you to like get the clue or the memo, and so yeah, so it's something to, I guess, work on for me. But I try. Um, you can only go so far, I guess. And so yeah, this video is super super long. It's almost 23 minutes. Um, but like I say, I just wanted to say that like, tomorrow's never guaranteed or promised. So it's like, what would you tell people if you could, that have like never met you or will never meet you? What would you want to say to them? Like, what would you want them to like know about you or remember or learn or whatever? I guess for me, just know, like, obviously I'm not perfect. I mean, nobody is. I mean, everybody's got their own faults and weaknesses and failures and shortcomings and whatnot. I have addictions. I have stuff that I'm not proud of, that I'm ashamed of, that, I try to act like, oh yeah, it didn't, happen, or whatever, and you be in like denial about it and try to like cover it up or like be embarrassed about it, and like, because nobody wants to like sit there and open up their heart about like their real struggles and their real like stuff that's going on in their life. Because when you get too like real about stuff, people kind of, there's a lot of people that are fake and phony in the world, and they don't want to sit there and they put up a front, like a mask, like me, like going into entertainer mode and a people pleaser and a crowd pleaser and give them what they want or whatever and kind of thing. And it's like, that's not reality. Like that's, that's artificial. Like that's superficial, you know. It's kind of like being in a like high school in a certain clique and you know, just join for the sake of joining, like that doesn't, you're like a robot. Like you don't have any input. Like, you know what I mean? You don't want to be a part of something that you have no say in, or like you have to do things this certain way and only this certain way, and if you don't, then like you're nobody, or you're not cool, or you're not special, or one of the cool kids, or whatever, like that's childish. That's so petty and stupid. Like that's dumb. Like nobody wants to be in some like yacht club or golf club thing and tennis club or something, sponsorship or whatever, if it's just a certain people that just talk crap about you or behind your back when you're not around. And that's nothing nobody wants to be a part of. So that's kind of ignorant, like, I mean, if you want to sit there and believe the lies and the rumors and all that and the drama, go right ahead and, if you enter if you dare. But I mean, yeah, so at any rate, back to what I was talking about originally. Stuff that I'd want people to know about. Like I say, I've got my fair share of addictions. I'm a guy, so that should tell you a lot. And being single, when you're not with someone, you got certain desires, and certain like, I don't know what you want to call them, certain like manly urges or whatever. I guess that's what people call it. I don't know, but also, if I'm being like brutally like truthful and sincere and like realistic and whatever. Yeah, I don't claim to be the like world's smartest person or like the most intelligent or whatever. Like I'm not saying that I'm like Mr. Know It All or I have all the answers and you better listen to what I say or like like conform to whatever and put you in a box or something and like a stereotype or something like that doesn't do anything. Like I'm more of a like a lone wolf loner. Like I like to do projects like by myself. I don't like doing stuff with a group and like, story time and let's, do this project and whatever because most of the time that happens, I end up doing like a lot of the like legwork or the research and everything else and everybody else gets like a good grade because I did all like the you know, like SAG or whatever, like I did, like they get credit for a lot of the stuff that I actually did. And so they do like nothing pretty much towards the actual assignment and yet get a grade as if they did, which is completely unfair. Like you should only get whatever grade based on what part you had to play and role you had to play in it, So like you can't sit there and it'd be like if you were a character in like a book or a movie or something and you're in like a scene and then you get paid as much for like the main character that's been in like every page and you were like in one little section and think that you should be able to get the same credit and the same like you know accolades and is like the lead role. Like are you that's crazy. Like that's the definition of insanity. Like to do something and over and over repetitively expect the same result without changing up any of the variables or whatnot. Like as they say, cuckoo, like they've lost their marbles, they're insane. Like they're psycho, like they're crazy. But Anyway, it's almost been a half hour. So, to all the people out there, all the single ladies, give me a try. I will not disappoint. I won't let you down. I'm like the perfect boyfriend because, like, I've never been, like, tainted or, like, been sculpted or molded into a certain, like, role or a certain style of anything. So, like, you could literally, I'm like the perfect, like, portrait or candidate, like, you don't have to worry about, like, training me, you know what I mean? Like, where I was shown a certain way by a certain type of girl, and so then you gotta, like, get that, like, way of thinking out of the picture to, like work on, you know what I mean? Like, you could literally just whatever you want me to be, and then I could be it. Like, there's no, like, baggage claim or, like, any kind of stuff you'd have to, like, fight to, like, get out of the, like, way or whatever, like, I don't know how to explain it, but, like, I'm just, like I say, like an empty canvas, like painting a picture in a mural, and you just have this blank canvas, and you can just do whatever you want as, like, a artist or for your drawing or whatever that you want to do. Like, that's me. Like, you don't gotta worry about me being shown stuff or doing things certain ways that you may like or don't care for. Like, whatever it is that you think is, like, best for you for, like, a partner in, like, in a relationship, you know then I can conform. I can, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to sit there and be like, like a pushover or whatever. Like, I'm not stupid. I wasn't born, like they say, I was born at night. I just wasn't born last night. Well, actually, I wasn't even born at night. I was born in the day, but that's neither here nor there. That's irrelevant. But point is, the bottom line is that, you know, I don't know. I mean, if you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I'm not for everybody. I mean, I know that. Good Lord knows that. So, if you want to give me a shot and give me a chance or try on or whatever, by all means, go for it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna, like, say no. I mean, obviously, I have a certain type of girl, like, that I would, you know, desire, like, I don't want to settle. Like, I'm not like, I'm desperate, I'm not like that desperate, like, I've been waiting for most of my life, like, for, Mrs. Right, not Mrs. Right now. Like, I'm not in, like, a huge rush to, like, get down on one knee and, like, say I do and live happily ever after and get married and get hitched and elope or whatever, or have one night stands and stuff like. That's not what I want. I don't desire to go from, like, person to person to person, or them to do that to me or cheat on me. Is like, I would never do that to them. I don't want them to do that to me. Like, that's just mutual respect. Like, if you think that that's okay to, like, be with someone but also be with other people too or whatever, and, like, or test the waters, and, like, you're with this guy but then you want to go and, like, do stuff with some girl or some friend of yours or something or whatever, like, that's it's not cool. Like, that's like silly. I don't know. Like, I don't know what you're trying to gain out of that, or what you're trying to closure, or, like, you know what I mean, peace of mind, or, just to say you've tried it or say you've done it or whatever, like, for experience or something. Like, I have no clue, to be honest. I really don't. Just things like that just blow my mind. It's just mind boggling. Like, you gotta think of it like this. As far as like STDs and stuff like that, it's like you can't get nothing if you